Oh no. I haven't been talking all morning because I've wanted to save my voice, and this is what it ended up doing. Yeah, you saved it. All right. Well, at least now you guys can see why I didn't want to do the like a live stream that's gonna be part of this, series. Can you imagine? You're watching this in the future. Oh yeah, Jesus camp live stream, whatever. Oh, this is the fourth one, and then I come in sounding like this. Come on. Hi, Menno. How you doing? So, um, yeah, I took a nap yesterday, like a migraine nap, and I woke up, my throat just really hurt. Um, it's like, when your throat is really dry, kind of like that, but painful. So I thought, oh, well, maybe it's just dry. And nope. So I don't know. Not feeling the best. I don't know if I would say sick. I can breathe through both nostrils. That's kind of how I check if I'm sick. So I always I got in the habit of taking 2 tablespoons of vinegar when I have a sore throat, so I have to do that. But it was just something my band teacher had told us. And I don't know, it seemed to work, or it was a coincidence that it worked, but I've always done it since then, so that's it. How are things in South Korea? I think they're pretty good overall. I think we're a little slow on the vaccines currently. Um, there's some concern about the president, that he's too buddy-buddy with North Korea. And so some people have... I'm not sure how true it is, but I know that there are some people that believe it, including my pharmacist, and this is where I heard it from, but that President Moon had denied some of the vaccines from other countries because he wanted to share them with North Korea, and he was afraid that North Korea wouldn't take them if they were American vaccines. I don't know, but that's what some people are feeling. And I'm not saying this as like a, you know, what's that guy's name? Sean Hannity or something, where, oh, I'm just asking questions and I'm putting these ideas in your head or something. I'm just letting you know that some people are getting very frustrated with how slow we seem to be rolling out the vaccines. Teachers were supposed to get the vaccines, I think, like we're already a month late for our vaccines. We were supposed to get them in February. I think they started being administered early mid-March. So they're still kind of giving them to the first round of people, yeah. Ross asked if I'm alright. I don't know. I don't know if I'm alright. I don't know if it's just a throat thing. Yellow dust season has started. This is when we get this like yellow dust. Some of it is pollution, some of it's just dust from the Gobi Desert. So that blows over from China, Mongolia yearly. And it's around this time, but I don't know if it's yellow dust season. Somebody yesterday said it was, but I think they just didn't understand, like, because we had a storm yesterday, and sometimes for storms, the sky changes colors, and so I looked out and the sky was very yellow-orange. Speaking of, is my screen yellow-orange? Are you guys seeing a yellow-orange, or are you seeing, like, the normal color? Because I have a nightlight on my screen. If you guys don't know, the nightlight makes everything yellow. If you turn it all the way to the extreme, it makes it orange. So if you're using it at night and you don't want to be hit with this bright light, or you don't want to disturb anybody else in the room, you can turn on the night light. It's also good for people with migraines. So let me know if you guys can see that I can adjust it. I have to do that for my students when we, whether they're in class or online, they can't look at it like this. It's just too funky for them. And I don't blame them. I mean, it does definitely distort the colors. Lots of work, but nothing productive. Yeah, I hear that. How's my day been going? I woke up about 2 hours ago, around 4:30. What have I been doing all morning? I feel like I've done nothing. I was gonna exercise, but I don't. I'm just. I don't want to. I don't want to believe I'm getting sick. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to. I don't want to say it. I'm just telling myself, oh, you're just feeling a little tired, you know. But no, my body's feeling kind of rough. I don't know how to describe it. I don't know. I guess for me, I always think, do I have a fever? Do I have a headache? And can I breathe through both nostrils? That's like my litmus test. Maybe that's the wrong litmus test. Bring the heat. What are we bringing the heat for? We're bringing the heat for Ms. Holiday. Possibly. The colors are fine. Okay, great. Here in QC, Canada, we'll take the vaccine from wherever they come from, which is not necessarily the case for other parts of the country. Misinformation is blind. Unfortunately, yeah. That's why I wanted to specify I'm not trying to spread any misinformation. It's just that's what some people are saying here. So that's one of the things that, you know, just because we hear a lot of conspiracy theories from places like the US or India. So I just wanted you guys to know, one, that's from here. I don't think President Moon's going to get reelected. People had very high hopes for him when President Park was impeached, and he just did not meet any of them at all. He's there. I don't know how accurate it is again, but the common belief is that he's like pro-communism, and people are not into that. So he's not conservative enough for the conservatives, but he's too traditional for the progressives. And so, like, for example, one of the soldiers, so it's mandatory for men to go into the military. So men don't have a choice. They have to go into the military. And if you're gay, that's not your choice either. So if you're a gay soldier, you're not allowed to be gay. And before, I think people just got kind of kicked out or whatever, but somebody got put in jail, like prison, just because he was gay. And it wasn't like, oh, he was gay, but he forced himself on somebody. Nothing like that. And they just put him in prison. So people were like, oh, President Moon, what are you going to do? You're the progressive president. And he's like, let him rot in jail, whatever. Oh, dear. All right. Blindness is universal. Yeah, we're not a good species. Good morning, Obyung. I haven't taken any vaccines. We never had that issue here. If there was an emergency, I suppose I would. Norris, if you want to say something, you can, but please don't spam. Thanks. 3 major newspapers are... Oh, it looks like Mr. Norris is drawing body parts. So we're going to just remove. Put user in timeout, I guess. And we can hide the user. Let's do that. Ta-da! I mean, it's not like we lost anything of value, right? It was just a bunch of emojis or something. The 3 major newspapers in Naver act like Fox News. Yeah, unfortunately. I'm reminded of, there's a Christian news network here, and they had talked about, this was, I don't know, 2013, 2014, something like that. They were talking about how foreign men come to steal Korean women and they'll give them AIDS. Like that. Nothing about, foreign women coming to steal Korean men or Korean women or foreign men coming to steal Korean men, right? because of the idea that men have their own agency. Remember, women are submissive and they can't think for themselves. So if a foreign woman comes to Korea, a Korean man is a man and he's smart enough to know how to choose. But for women, golly gosh, Korean women are just so stupid and they can't make their own decisions. Let's see. Alan Turing got chemically castrated because he was gay and ended himself. Yes. I mean, that's obviously tragic. So tragic. But at the same time, we hope to have learned from the past, you know. And here we are in modern times, still jailing people in developed nations for this. So is Tess Holliday suffering from anorexia before the weight gain or after? I'm genuinely confused. Yes. Okay. So about this, because I thought you guys might be interested, we do talk about mental health and weight stuff on this channel too. So from my understanding, she says that she currently, sure, whatever. So that she was like recently diagnosed with anorexia nervosa specifically. She had said to somebody, let's see, she's trying to help stop the idea that only very underweight people can have anorexia. I'm anorexic and in recovery. I'm the result of a culture that celebrates thinness, blah, blah, blah. Eating disorders thrive on secrecy. So they were talking about like the weight stigma with this, but she's, I've been in recovery for 10 years from anorexia and nearly died 4 times. I'll stand with the red carpet. Oh, this is a different person. Tess has come out to say that she's recently dealing with anorexia. Oh, we can watch an interview. Let us do that. Let me know if you guys can hear this. Sorry, we don't want to hear this. I've got an ad blocker when it's not on incognito mode. All right. No, thank you, YouTube.
Disorders on the rise during the pandemic. Kenna Whitworth spoke exclusively to Holiday about her struggle.
All right.
And what she wants others to.
So let's talk with her. I don't want to get that flag, you know what I'm saying? So I just kind of want to hear what she has to say about it.
Been struggling with disordered eating most of her life.
I always thought that I overate. But then people in my life would say, oh yeah, I eat more than Tess. And it was almost like...
So I have a lot of very frustrated feelings about this. The idea that she wants to portray is that she's battling these stereotypes that somebody who's anorexic has to be underweight. First of all, that's part of the diagnostic criteria, which I have up here, just if anybody had wanted to be interested or was like questioning it or something. For anorexia nervosa, there's a weight requirement. Like you have to be an underweight BMI. The reason for this is because the treatment is different. It requires refeeding. There's another type of anorexia called atypical anorexia, which is anorexia, but you're not underweight yet. And the reason they have to separate this, which it's very unfortunate because in like the eating disorder community, there's almost like a competition between not only who's the skinniest, but like who can be the best anorexic. And there's even like memes and other jokes about, you know, oh, I'm starting anorexia today. And then someone will post like a grocery haul of like lettuce and green tea, you know, something like that. It's, you know, some people will say, I wish I could trade my Ozfed or Ednos for anorexia. Anorexia is seen as like this I mean, all eating disorders are terrible, but anorexia is seen as the one that's almost like the poster child. Do you know what I mean? When you think of an eating disorder, you think of anorexia. You think of a very emaciated body, a person who refuses all food and is shaking like a leaf and is 2 seconds from death's door, right? That's what you see, or that's what you think of. But that's really on the lower end in terms of percentages. Most people that have an eating disorder are going to have binge eating disorder. And if Tess had come out with that, that would have been understood, like very understandable. One of the things about anorexia, whether it's anorexia nervosa or atypical anorexia, is a fear of gaining weight. And so somebody like Tess, who made a name for herself by, well, actually themselves, I'm not sure how Tess identifies, so we'll use them. I don't know how Tess identifies. Who made a name for themselves by being obese and gaining weight and showing all these pictures of them eating. The only way that like an anorexic person would do performative eating is to prove that I'm not really anorexic, because everyone's calling me anorexic, and so I'm going to prove I'm not anorexic by posting pictures of me pretending to take a bite of a hot dog or pretending to take a bite of a hamburger. There's even like these, you probably have heard of like thinspiration. It's like very skinny people that other people look at for like inspiration, like motivation. There's a subset, there's like different subsets of thinspo, and one of them is thinspo of like skinny models holding food that they're about to take a bite of but won't take a bite of. Like there's this like subset of, you know, and so you'll get like performative pictures of that. Tess doesn't do that. Tess indulges on camera. That's not something that an anorexic would do. That's something that a person with a binge component, whether it's binge eating disorder or bulimia, they'll do that. If Tess had bulimia, I would say, oh yeah, no, that makes sense. If Tess had said, I have binge eating disorder, oh yeah, that makes sense. Now, what's really frustrating about this is that she wants to use her platform to prove, like, against these stereotypes, to prove that big bodies can be models, and to prove that big bodies can be beautiful and big bodies can exercise and whatever. And so she's trying to prove that big bodies can be anorexic. I don't... She wants that. Because again, anorexia is like the gold standard. Do you know what I mean? She wants to be anorexic. She wants to be seen as anorexic. And that's... I can't say cultural appropriation, but you know what I mean. That's what she wants to be seen as. If she had come out and said, listen, I was diagnosed with binge eating disorder, and I really want people to understand, you know, I was embarrassed when I was first diagnosed with this, and I tried to play it off, but honestly, I need to get my life in control. I know other people have binge eating disorder. It's the most common eating disorder. Eating disorders aren't just for skinny people, blah, 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 blah. That would have been great. That would have been a really good use of that platform. But instead, she did this. She doesn't meet any of the diagnostic criteria. And this thing where she said, well, some people say I eat more than Tess. This is what binge eaters believe. I told you guys this in like a previous video where I would eat, like in public, I would eat just a little bit of food, and then in private, I would just inhale a bunch of food, right? That's why she says that, to prove she's anorexic. I mean, dramatic weight loss is required as a diagnostic for atypical anorexia, and being underweight is required as a diagnostic for anorexia nervosa. Like, you can't have anorexia diagnosis without dramatic weight loss, because that's the nature of the illness. Being afraid of people perceiving you as fat. You don't celebrate how fat you are. That is not anorexia. If she would have said something like, I was anorexic, and then she showed a bunch of pictures to actually prove it, and then she gained a bunch of weight because a lot of times, unfortunately, anorexia goes from anorexia to recovery, which it ends up becoming binge eating disorder or bulimia. The eating disorders don't go away, and a lot of times they morph. Somebody who's recovered from anorexia will be a healthy BMI, but they'll be like on the low end, usually on the cusp, like 19, 18 BMI. That's someone who's recovered from anorexia because they still have anorexia. They're just managing it as best as they can, but they still have it. They don't go into overeating territory because their anorexia doesn't allow for that. If they've gone into that territory, it's morphed into binge eating. Okay. Let's see what you guys have said. All right. Does anorexia nervosa have accompanied things? Yes. So hopefully I took care of that sugar. Yes. If she did say she had bulimia, that would be more understandable because bulimic people, they are usually between normal weight to overweight or obese. I mean, you can't, like, if you do a thing where you kind of like binge, purge, binge, you're getting all those calories. Do you know what I mean? Binge, purge, binge, pass out. You just consumed and like digested all those calories, right? So, leave with the DSM on the shelf, I know, right? Yeah, Good Morning America broadcasted. I don't know. I see atypical. She's on a bad track of not eating to death, regardless of weight. It's not atypical anorexia. Atypical anorexia, you need to have dropped a significant amount of weight in a short amount of time in order to, that's one of the diagnostic criteria. Tess has only ever gained weight. That's it. She might have lost some weight, but it's not like a dramatic weight loss that would count as something like this. Whenever the PC complex says follow the dollar, seems to be the most reliable. Yeah, that's true. Imagine being the interviewer and figuring out what slightly leading questions to ask that let her explain it to detail. Yeah, let's see.
I wore it as a badge of honor.
Known for loving and...
So she was happy to hear. So she said that she wore that when people would say, oh, you eat less than me, she would wear it as a badge of honor. I did that too on purpose because I wanted to prove that my weight gain wasn't my fault. That's the badge of honor. It's not that I was happy that I was anorexic, quote unquote. And this is all this is doing is feeding into the stereotype that being anorexic is just like an amount that you publicly eat. And that is so not it. There's this whole idea that anorexia is a total, utter refusal of food. Or when you eat, you only eat like half a bite of an apple or something. There are people that have anorexia that have binge days. There's a type of anorexia called anorexia binge purge subtype. There's anorexic people who just eat junk food. That's all they eat. They just eat junk food. You know, they'll save up their calories, quote unquote, and their calorie cap is quite low. The amount of food that Tess eats, just the calories alone in some of her meals, this is not anorexia. And the thing was, she said was she specifically had tweeted, my technical diagnosis is anorexia nervosa. Anorexia nervosa is the one that requires you to be underweight to be diagnosed with this. So she's either completely lying or she saw... I can't even think of how this could have happened, like, clinically. I don't know. But no, I mean, even if a doctor had said something like anorexia binge purge subtype or something, I mean, she couldn't even get diagnosed with that. But if she did, there's no way they would have said, okay, so technically you have anorexia nervosa. Nobody would have said that to her. You don't meet the... I mean, let's just DSM this, y'all. Just so you can see why this is so frustrating. Diagnostic criteria. Restriction of energy intake relative to requirements, which means you're eating less than you need, leading to significantly low body weight out in the context of age, sex, developmental trajectory, and physical health. Intense fear of gaining weight or becoming fat even though you're underweight. So you have to be underweight and also scared to be perceived as fat, to gain weight. Disturbance in the way that one's body weight or shape is experienced, undue influence of body weight or shape on self-evaluation, denial of the seriousness of the current low body weight. Warning signs: dramatic weight loss, dresses in layers to hide weight loss or stay warm. I mean, Tess is a big fan of showing off her body. Preoccupied with weight, food, calories, fat grams, and dieting. These are things that Tess rejects as part of her life philosophy. Refuses to eat certain foods. Tess rejects this as her life philosophy. Progressing to restrictions against whole categories of a food. So there are, that is how it does turn into. Makes frequent comments about feeling fat or overweight despite the weight loss. And this feeling fat is not Tess saying, yeah, I am fat, I own it. This feeling fat it's a negative feeling. Complaints of constipation. I mean, we don't know if she does that. Denies feeling hungry. No, when she's hungry, she eats. Food rituals. Has to eat foods in certain orders. Excessive chewing. Rearranging food on the plate. Another one is tearing food into small pieces. Cooks meals for others without eating. We don't know if she does that. Consistently makes excuses to avoid meal times. Certainly doesn't do that. She actually makes excuses to eat more on like her TikTok. Expresses a need to burn off calories taken in. She says that she doesn't have to justify her food. Maintains an excessive, rigid exercise regimen. She absolutely does not. Despite weather, fatigue, illness, or injury. Nope, she says I exercise when I want to because I like it. Withdraws from usual friends and activities. Becomes isolated, withdrawn, secretive. Nope. Very public. Seems concerned about eating in public. This is like a fear of eating in public, not concerned that everybody gets to see you eat in public, which is what Tess does. Limited social spontaneity, not at all. Resists or is unable to maintain a body weight appropriate for their age, height, and build. We're talking underweight. Has intense fear of weight gain or being fat, and is underweight. So, strong need for control, inflexible thinking. Physical, we don't know about feeling cold all the time, but let me tell you, when I was that BMI, I was not cold all the I was hot all the time. I was like wearing t-shirts, and while it snowed, I was always hot. Muscle weakness, she brags about how strong she is, you know? She doesn't meet any of these. Do you know what I'm saying? Let's see. So imagine being the interview. Okay, this is a situation of what symptoms do you experience is a very valid question. I have atypical anorexia. I maintain a body weight of 190 pounds. I'm comfortable with my body. I'm very happy for you that you're able to feel comfortable with your body and to keep weight maintenance. So I'm talking about anorexia nervosa. When you've been diagnosed with that, you typically are not going to go into overweight or obese unless you've traded, quote unquote, anorexia for something that has a binge component. The annoying thing is that if you just suggest a diagnosis might not be the right one, the hordes are at your throat, right? Gaining weight is your gut bacteria's fault. They tell you what to eat. Exactly. I've heard people say that. It's not me. It's just my gut bacteria. I eat very irregularly. Like some days I don't eat anything. Some days I eat a lot. Could that be bulimia or just irresponsibility? My BMI is 19 to 20. I have been for at least a year. Now, this is a really good question. So first of all, bulimia includes purging. So you binge eat and then you purge by a laxative abuse, exercise purging, or forcing yourself to vomit the food that you've just consumed. Or any combination of the above, including all of the above. While there are behaviors and weights, like weight-related stuff to being diagnosed with this, the eating disorder is a mental illness. And so if you're just not eating some days because you don't care, and you're not, you just eat a little bit extra on some days because you just felt hungry that day, That's not an eating disorder. It has to do with your thought process. So you're like, it's almost like your brain was miswired, and so when you are stressed out, the first thing your body, like, you feel like a way to solve the stress or to manage the stress has to deal with food in some way. Restriction, purging, overconsumption, something along those lines. It makes sense in your head. you know it's kind of like asking, well, some days I feel pretty good, but other days I'm kind of nervous because I have to do public speaking. Does that mean I have anxiety disorder? No. So just because you have some of those behaviors, it's all about what goes through your mind. If you don't eat anything at all because you're scared of gaining weight, or you don't eat anything at all because you feel like you don't deserve food, or that you're scared about a photo like opportunity coming up or something, that could indicate it. If you eat lots and lots because you're hungry, that's one thing. If you eat lots and lots because it's a compulsion and you feel like you can't stop, and even when you're full, even when you're puking because you've eaten so much, you keep eating more. Sometimes there are people that do eat their vomit. So if that's not you, you most likely don't have an eating disorder, but if you are concerned about it, yeah, go get it checked out for sure. I don't understand any of this. I do know Americans are severely overweight. What don't you understand? This is not an American issue. This is not a recent issue. Things like anorexia, bulimia, things like that, binge eating disorder, and so on. I mean, these have been documented for hundreds of years. So this is not like a recent thing. It's not culture specific. It is a mental illness. There's no mental illness like location. Eugenia Cooney is anorexic. She denies it. I mean, all the signs are there. That poor girl. Let's see. Other cultures don't have these obesity issues. I ask you to recheck that. I mean, there's even like a subset of shows in the UK, Secret Eaters, Supersize versus Super Skinny, Supersize versus Super Skinny Kids, and Fat Families. And there could be more that I don't know about. These are all about how obesity is taking over the UK. The obesity rate is significantly high in places like Mexico, Australia. It's growing here in South Korea. I mean, when I came here, it was almost impossible to find any clothes that fit me, especially because I was larger when I came here. Now I'm one of the smaller people. Most of the people I see in the day, I would say a good half of them are overweight, if not obese. Yeah. Waking up fat. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but I know the feeling. She seems to have some kind of reverse anorexia. So this would be, I don't even know, because even with binge eating disorder, you're very secretive about it. You're embarrassed by it. You're embarrassed by the weight gain. You're frustrated by it. So for somebody to just celebrate food, I feel like she just doesn't want to take responsibility for the fact that she overindulged, made a living off of it. Now she has to figure out, I don't want to die. I think she's got 1 or 2 kids, doesn't want to die young, has to justify the weight loss somehow by saying, oh yeah, now I'm in recovery for an eating disorder. Just own up to it. You got fat, you regret it. Be honest. I recently joined a gym. My goals are to build muscle and strength. So far, it's been a month and I already feel stronger. That's awesome. That was a throwaway joke comment. Thanks. So yeah, no problem. I missed these streams. Yeah, me too. Unfortunately, we don't have a ton of time left, which I kind of did on purpose, because once my computer goes out, because you guys know, I'll say, yeah, we're doing this for an hour, and then 3 hours later, because I need to go see a doctor today. You can kind of hear it. Does an eating disorder include not eating dinner so I can feel my beer more? There, no, I mean, I'm not sure if you're joking, but there are people that will save calories for alcohol abuse. Yeah. So it's like a nickname is drunk anorexic. Um, all their calories, or almost all their calories, come from alcohol. Yeah. Um, it depends on what you're eating too. Like something heavy mixed with spicy stuff. I don't drink. Oh, okay. I think you're talking about that thing. Other cultures have these issues. It's becoming a real problem in developing countries, even China. It's not a luxury in poor countries can afford, but they would if it was available. Right. I mean, the obesity rate in places like India is just getting out of control. Kuwait. I mean, let's just. I mean, the idea that this is limited to just the continental United States is. I mean, it's just. I mean, let's just look at this obesity rates of countries around the world. You know. For the last I checked, the top 10 most obese nations by percentage, 9 of them are Pacific Islands, and the last one was Kuwait. So the U.S. didn't fall on there unless you want to count like. But let's check, just to show you, just that person that's These are the lowest rates. So these high guys up here are, the US, but here Australia, UK, just like I had mentioned, Germany, Russia, Egypt, Brazil, Algeria, Oman, Chile, Samoa, Part of the issue too is that in places where obesity is seen as normal, so in places like the Samoas, for example, something like binge eating disorder or bulimia that tends to make you gain weight, that's going to be totally ignored. No, I mean, when you see somebody in a very large country and that person's really skinny, you look at this person and think, probably an eating disorder. But if it's a larger country and somebody's really large, you think, they're just like everybody else. That's one of the problems with binge eating disorder. And in places where, that thinness is really celebrated, things like bulimia, where you purge more than you binge, if that makes sense, and anorexia or atypical anorexia, that's going to be more celebrated. You're doing a great job. Like when I had lost like 11 pounds in 11 days, I lost about 30 pounds in 30 days one time in the military. I was passing out. And I kept I didn't know what was going on. And I thought I had some kind of like serious gastrointestinal problem or something. And I kept like reaching out to my higher ranking people, just like, I think I need to see the doctor. They're like, why? Oh, I've lost 11 pounds in 11 days. That's awesome. Very motivating. And that's how this stuff gets hidden. I mean, in the military, eating disorders out of increased incidence, especially as the body standards get higher. So the Marines has the highest rate out of any of the other branches. Obesity by gender, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, UAE. I mean, Kuwait is a very rich country. So is Saudi Arabia. So is the United Arab Emirates. I mean, is it any surprise? Do you know what I mean? Not to the same extent, says De Heiken. I mean, are you looking at these stats? Do you see that the percentage of obesity, 61% in places like Nauru. Okay, this is exceeding the U.S. We're talking about obesity, not overweight and obesity. We're talking about just obesity. So your cultural, I mean, I don't mean this in like a insulting way, just like that's what it is. Your cultural ignorance is not like a reason to think that other countries don't have these problems. I mean, this is a serious problem around the world. Huge problem around the world. Let's see. It was a joke, I think, about the beer. That's fine. I just, if it could be interpreted as something else, like use it as a teaching opportunity kind of thing. Processed foods is a big part of it. Philippines eating as a pastime. Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, De Heineken, do you see... I don't know. I mean, You could lead a person to info, but you can't make them think, I guess. I don't know what to tell you, my dude. I know you have a belief. The facts are against that belief. If you still want to have that belief, that's fine. I'm just going to stop responding to it because you're not adding anything constructive by being stubborn. Mexico drinks too much cola. Absolutely. That was one of the things that was really interesting. By the way, I got a notification from my phone or my computer that it wants to die. So just, if we disappear, that's what happened. But you guys can definitely continue this conversation in the Discord, of course. What was I thinking? Mexico, what the world eats photo? So there was this interesting, Hunger Planet, that's what it was. So this is a really interesting book. It shows what a typical family eats in a week in different nations, and then how much money they spend. And I think the money was all converted to US dollars. The biggest, most interesting thing here, of course, is the amount of cola. Just so much Coke. And, oh, look at that. Everybody in the family's overweight or obese. You know. Americans eat large portions. It's a choice. Nobody's denying that. Who's denying that? I mean, have you seen the UAE? I mean, did you see any of the stats? I mean, I don't know what are you trying to prove? Foreign people who look up the US or see the US media don't see obese people living in West Virginia the same with other countries. That's true. I mean, the obesity rate definitely varies based on the state. You know what I mean? I was looking at the stats you gave me. Okay, so what didn't you understand about the US doesn't fit here? And you're still blaming the US. Or, oh, I've heard foreigners talk about how big the portions are. That's fine. I mean, have you been to a Korean drinking outing? I mean, the portions, it's not even portion. You actually go from a restaurant to a bar to a karaoke bar type place to another bar to a restaurant to a convenience store where you get beer and snacks and you hang out and eat, and then you eat like there's so much eating. And of course the obesity rate is going up because of that. So that is, that's just what it is. I mean, if we look at something like the obesity rate in Kuwait, because that's one that I know right off the top of my head is very heavy, unfortunately. Prevalence of obesity, look at that. Yeah, the US is here, but so is Venezuela, Syria, Mexico, South Africa, United Arab Emirates, Jordan, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait. I mean, it's all here. And Kuwait is higher. These numbers are going up. So of these top 10, the US is like number 8. So this idea that the US is is outperforming the rest of the world in an outlandish and cartoonish ways is just not true. Your own list has America near the top. I'm not saying it doesn't have America near the top. You are saying that the United States has a unique problem that the rest of the world doesn't have. That's how it's coming across. If that's not what you're saying, that's fine. But this idea that it seems like you're saying that obesity is unique to the United States, there's a unique way that it's happening here. The rest of the world doesn't have the problem the same way the US does, and that's just factually incorrect. And that is all we'll be saying on that. And saving money by using French portions, which I prepare myself always. It does save money. I think that people don't understand. Eating healthy is cheap. You don't have to buy made